Good morning. Hope everybody's doing good this morning. Having a blessed day. And just wanted to share a devotional with you today. I'm going to be this morning in Luke chapter 10. I'm going to read verse 38 through 42. It says, As they went, he entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. She had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she came to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Then tell her to help me. Jesus answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken from her. You know, that good part that Mary had chosen was Jesus, but it was also time with Jesus. Mary had put off doing all the duties of serving so that she could just spend a little time at his feet. She sat there and listened to every word that he was saying while Martha was running around distracted with the chores of the house and things like that. This brought me back to, reminded me of something that the Lord had given me. About a year or so ago, the Lord prompted me to sit down and to do a little math. And so I want to share that with you this morning. I got to thinking about 1 week's time and how much time that we have. And 1 week is equal to 7 days, which is equal to 168 hours, which equals 10,080 minutes. I got to doing a little thinking there. If the typical Christian attends Sunday school and church every week, that's 2.5 hours a week, or that's 150 minutes a week. If the typical Christian took 1 hour a day and spent with God 7 days a week, either reading or praying, that's 60 minutes a day, 7 hours a week, or 420 minutes a week with the Lord. So if we go to Sunday school, we go to our Sunday morning service, and we spend 1 hour a day for 7 days a week. So in other words, that's 9.5 hours a week with God, 158.5 hours a week for myself. That's 570 minutes a week with God, or 9,510 minutes a week for myself. If the typical Christian throws in a Sunday night service, say we go to Sunday school, we go to Sunday morning, and we go to Sunday night, that's an extra hour, or that's an extra 60 minutes a week added on to that time. Then we spend 1 hour a day with the Lord. That's 10.5 hours a week with God, or 630 minutes a week with God. That's 10.5 hours a week with God and 157.5 hours a week for myself. Or it's 630 minutes a week with God and 9,450 minutes a week for myself. Say, well, on top of that, we throw in that we're going to go to church on Wednesday night. That's another hour or 60 minutes a week, which comes out to 11.5 hours a week with God, or 156.5 hours a week for myself. It's 690 minutes a week with God, or 9,390 minutes a week for myself. That's a typical Christian lifestyle. Going to church every time we have church and spending an hour a day in prayer or in the Word of God, just with God, an hour a day. The scales there are kind of tipped in our favor. 11.5 hours a week with God, 156.5 hours a week for myself. When you break that down and look at the minutes, it's 690 minutes a week with God, 9,390 minutes a week for myself. You say, well, if you're a kid, that's 2,400 minutes per week that we spend there. So if we added in our time at church and our time at work, our time with God and our time with work, that's 51.5 hours a week with God and work or school. That's 3,090 minutes a week with God or work and school. So that equals to 51.5 hours a week for God. It's a week for God and work or school. And it's 6,990 minutes a week for myself. You say, well, I work more than 40 hours a week. Okay. If you work a 60-hour work week, that's 60 hours in 1 week or 3,600 minutes per week. That means that we have 71.5 hours a week for God or work, and we have 4,290 minutes a week for God and work, which is 71.5 hours a week for God and work and 96.5 hours a week for myself. It's 4,290 minutes a week for God and work and 5,790 minutes a week for myself. I think we kind of see the point of where we're going here. We have a lot of time to ourselves. We claim to not have enough time for God or to get everything done, but we have a lot of time outside of work, outside of God, for ourselves to decide what we want to do with that time. The scales are greatly tipped in our favor as far as the time we have for ourselves. And I know you're probably thinking right about now, yes, but we have to sleep at some point in there. Well, I figured that one in also. If you were to sleep 8 hours a day for 7 days a week, it comes out to 96.5 hours a week, or 4,200. Hold on a minute. I've got this wrong here. Actually, it's 56 hours a week you sleep, and it's 3,360 minutes a week sleeping. That means that for our leisure time, after we go to work, after we spend time with God, after we sleep, and everything like that, we have 40.5 hours every week for us to spend to ourselves, or 2,430 minutes a week of leisure time. That's time that we can decide what we want to do, whether it be eating, spending time with family, playing games, working around the house, mowing the yard. We have 40.5 hours a week to do that and 2,431 minutes a week to do that. Now, compare that with the fact of just the time that we spend with God. If we went to every church service in an hour a day, we have 40.5 hours a week of leisure time for ourselves, and we give God 11.5 hours a week. We have 2,430 minutes a week of leisure time, and we give God 690 minutes a week. So after we give God that little time we allot to Him, we still have way more time for ourselves. As I read this, I think about how we quote so many times a verse from Psalm 84, verse 10. It says, "For a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than to dwell in the tents of the wickedness." As I read that verse and I look back over our time that we typically spend in 1 week, we can't rightfully read that verse with a clear conscience and say that a day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere, because when we look at our time that we give everywhere, we don't give a day in His courts. We give thousands elsewhere. Something for you to think about. Something that we all need to look at and think about. I pray that you'll set aside some time. Let's reevaluate our time, reprioritize our time. What if we all tithed our time to God also? How much time would we spend with Him? Pray that blesses you. I pray it provokes you to think, and I pray that God really moves in us and really gets our mind to working on these things. I pray you have a blessed week. We hope to see you soon, and we love you and look forward to just continuing to serve you.